There's a lot of different facets of video, and can't cover them all in this workshop. The first thing I do want to cover is the 3 stages of video production. It wouldn't be a video basics workshop without covering these first 3 processes, plus I added one more at the end just because it's kind of related, but it's not necessarily typically production. The first step is pre-production. So this is the part of the planning for video that most people overlook, but it is essential if you want to get a video that is cohesive, and if you want to get all the parts of the puzzle to put the video together, you need to have a lot of planning ahead of time, and this can take much longer than the actual production itself. And the third step I'm going to be going over is just the post-production or the editing. So what this entails is the script, storyboard, budget, resources, getting your locations, and all the logistics of whatever video that you're trying to get done. Depending on your video, yeah, you can have varying degrees of amount of this stuff that you can really actually do, like scripting. Say you're interviewing somebody, you have no idea what they're going to say. Well, you should have some idea of what questions you need to have asked and some holes that need to be covered in order for you to have something you can put together at the end. So there is, to some degree, an amount of planning that you'll need to have done before you go out and shoot. One example of a script, this is the typical AV broadcast script. You see you have video on this side of the screen, audio on this side. This is just a template I grabbed from the web, so they didn't put it in the exact format. They actually start the format down here, and how they actually start doing this up here. They're just kind of giving you an idea of what you would throw in. But typically what this is you would just basically describe what you're seeing on the video, and then off to the right in this column you would have the audio of whatever's being spoken of on the narrative word. So that's a typical way of doing a AV script. There's also a narrative way that if you were trying to submit a script to Hollywood, they wouldn't want it in this format. There's a very specific way of doing that for them. I'm not going to be going over that. It's a little bit more complicated and not necessarily the quickest way for just a quick and easy video production. So this is the typical way, though. I do have a template if you guys want in a digital format that you can just kind of erase this information and put in your own. Another aspect of the pre-production is the storyboard. And did I, hold on one second. It's going to start up on me. I didn't hand that out, did I? I'm going to grab the storyboard sheets for you guys to get an example of one of them. Okay, so this is basically the same thing that you guys have written down on the pieces of paper. Main difference is I took them off and put them on a board. That way we could rearrange it when we're out in the shoot and make sure we get everything covered. But the basic idea is you get a visual picture of what it is that you're going to shoot. If you get this all laid out ahead of time, you know what your end product is going to be before you even begin shooting. It's going to be much more likely that you'll get all the pieces that you need to put together the video. And in general, this is just the best way to get everybody on page, especially if you have more than one person working with you on the video, because you can just point to this picture and say, okay, camera person, we're going to need to do this, so we need to get this person lined up, and everybody can just kind of see if there's anybody doing lighting or anything of that nature. They can get in the area that they need to get all that, the details of a particular scene taken care of. Most of your productions, I know you're probably not going to spend the amount of time to draw out your characters as well as this is done, but this is just an idea of how you can get it done this is how they do it in the real world, because nobody's going to be throwing money at something that they can't visualize and see an idea of what's going to be happening. They'll also do what they call animatics and make some animations and stuff too. We're not going to go that far, but we actually did for this one. But for that matter, just doing stick figures, I'd say a little bit better than stick figures, but something that showed mass to a body just so you can see how it fills the frame is all you really need with expressions on people's faces. And if you have an idea of what type of shots you're getting, for example, if you have like a wide shot here and then a close-up, you usually want to mix them up in the edit to kind of keep things interesting. This is a way to get yourself out of trouble in the editing process because you can't really just cut to the same shot over and over again. It gets really boring and it doesn't interest the viewer very well. So this is a good way of just visualizing to see how your whole production is going to look at the end. I'll go ahead and play this. It's only 2 minutes, but it's basically this storyboarded out, and then you'll see the end product here. This was a short that we shot for the Smallwood Multimedia Boot Camp. We do it every year. We have high school students come in, and this was just kind of the end product that we did for it. But I'll go ahead and just play it now.
Where did you edit this in?
Final Cut 7, old Final Cut. We could have done it in Premiere. We could have done it in Final Cut 10. But for our purpose, the workflow just worked the best for Final Cut 7. Try and relax. I need to ask you a few questions. Do you remember what you felt?
I can't feel anything.
Do you remember what happened?
No.
Do you remember anything?
No.
My fellow Americans, there has been an outbreak we have linked to the professor. His boring lectures are killing our students, changing them into something this country has never seen before. What's being done to remedy the situation?
I've assembled a team of media specialists to combat the problem at the source. You're the chosen few. Will you help us?
We'll take care of it.
Is anyone still alive out there?
So there was a lot of details to get this done. And by having the storyboards, it really helped get everybody on the same page to make it happen. Anytime you do a video, if you want it to look good, it tends to take more than one person. If you have to be worrying about talent, worrying about camera placement, worry about the mics, if there's any lighting issues, all of those details, if your brain gets confused and if you start getting frustrated with that, it'll show. And if you're directing people, especially that aren't used to being on camera, it's not a good setup. If you can get more than one person when you're working on a video, do so. It's going to help out, and have them just be in charge of something. That being said, it's good if you have time to kind of play with the equipment before you go out on a shoot, because the more familiar you are with it, obviously the better end product you're going to have. So that's just an example of a quick little trailer that we did. Production, the day of the shoot. Typically, this doesn't take near as long as the actual pre-production. It's usually the fastest of all the 3 steps of the video production process. Here's another example of how intricate it can be. This is the day that we were shooting, what we were trying to get done, and all the little details that had to happen to have each scene work. I'm not expecting, again, you guys to necessarily fill all this information out, but if you want to know how to do a good video, these are all details that somebody had to take care of in order for this to happen. Post-production. That's the editing, adding your graphics and effects. As long as you really had everything planned out in the pre-production phase and you're able to accomplish it in the production, this step is actually pretty easy. But chances are when you're first starting out and you have a lot of pieces to your puzzle, and if they don't match, you spend a lot more time on this than you should. So that's one of the first things as a beginner, and if you just don't line everything out, it's going to be a lot more work, and you're going to be maybe not too happy at the end product. But that's kind of the 3 steps of video production, and then I add the one more at the end, which is the distribution. It's important that you know kind of what the end product is going to be, even actually before you go to the production phase. and the post-production for sure, because different means of distribution call for different ways of formatting, so you have to watch out for that. Just as an example, if you're going to web, it might be a small screen on the web, it might be a big screen on the web. If it's a small screen, you can't have a lot of really fine text if that's what's important in whatever it is that you're showing on screen. So you have to be aware of your end product, of where it's going to be viewed. That's the basics, though, of the video production pipeline, as well as the distribution. So the next thing I want to go over is the actual equipment itself. And